There will always be tension in a multiracial, inclusive democracy. But this isn't normal tension. This isn't disagreement over an issue. Polarization prevents the ability of a society to move forward.
Today, we're a nation where many people see their political opponents as genuinely bad people. And that is a serious threat to our democracy.
Democracy requires us to compromise, but how can you compromise with them when they are so evil?
And it may be true that in this moment, the bridge to remove polarization isn't through political relationships, that perhaps it's through the world of culture.
I don't think cultural creatives oftentimes realize just how powerful culture is. The solution to our problems here are not actually intellectual debates about policies. It's really about our sense of fellowship and care for one another. And these things are fostered much more through culture, oftentimes, than they are by going straight to politics.
We make meaning out of our world in story.
I love your daughter.
Empathy for somebody else's viewpoint, that's the glue that holds a society together. To climb inside a character and see the world from that character's point of view. You're experiencing that. You're rehearsing that for your life. This makes story an incredibly powerful tool.
I'd like to show you my ranch.
You think a tour of your ranch is going to change what I believe?
No, but it might help you understand me better. Might help me understand you too.
But the problem is, if the writer's room, everybody looks the same, both the same, drives the same Prius, and thinks the same things, lives in the 310 area code.
There was some stereotypes that they had in us that early on that they were like, well, the women will get up and like go varmint hunting. We're like, no, we don't go varmint hunting. And you have to fight to maintain kind of like who you are and what you want to say.
It is so tricky because who's still creating that narrative? Who's writing that narrative? Being often the only one or one of a couple of Blacks, and how that then influences story.
Felicia has talked about her experiences as the only Black person in the room. I'm generally the only Christian in the room. And it has really affected, my own psyche and also the storytelling that happens. So when I look around to try to see positive portrayal of Christians on TV, like in the recent Unbelievable or The Americans or Justified, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is really more to see myself so that other people's visions of me are changed.
To continue to be curious about a person, even if all the external signs are telling me that this isn't a person I should be with or talk to or know, and to have the courage to stay in relationship with people who might be dangerous to me in terms of my peers and what they think of me. We're living in a really punishing environment. We have to have the courage to risk those relationships, the people who are all telling us that we're right, and cross that divide and spend time and be curious and stop trying to persuade people.
I got friends I disagree with. Do you?
That's not fair. I don't have friends.
When you talk about this depolarization, is very often people will say, what are you talking about, bridging divides? I don't want to bridge divides with a white nationalist, or I don't want to bridge divides with somebody who passed that law in my state last month, or I don't want to, and part of what happens there is the lack of those relationships of trust and respect has us sort of build up entire caricatures of one another. That the more you build them up, the more daunting it is to reach across those dividing lines.
I grew up on the sitcoms of Norman Lear in the 70s that I thought were shared communal spaces where there were a lot of viewpoints discussed and people lived together in that variety of viewpoints.
Now I'm like, oh, I'm interested in that because I didn't know that. And I've learned something. And now that thing isn't scary because I know it and I understand it. So I often think about that being the way to what we have in common can be a respect for how we are different, but we got to learn how we are different.
There's a big diverse audience out there. And if people can understand that your show is respectful of their opinion, they're much more likely to come to it. This is an enormous, enormous opportunity for entertainment.
Creatives are in a position to save democracy in a way that other groups simply cannot show up for right now.
We can fix this if we get to work, and that gives me hope.